This is Fire and Fate by Serena Valentino, Chapter 12. From the Book of Fairy Tales, A Tale of Two Hades. So there were two of me, and as you can imagine, it was delightful. It was twice the fun, twice the devilry, and twice the pizzazz hands. I never tired of letting everyone know how much I enjoyed my own company. After the string-splitting ceremony, the party disbanded. The Fates went back to their realm, and the Odd Sisters returned to the Deadwoods to look for a way to create a new Circe. I told them if they found the spell they needed, I would use my powers as a god to help them. I brought the other me to the Forbidden Mountain so we could make our plans to overthrow our brother. The Odd Sisters gifted us with 2 of their magic mirrors so we could stay in contact with each other when the other me eventually went back to the underworld. Not that we needed them, but I think the Odd Sisters liked feeling as if I owed them a favor. And the fact was I did owe them, but not because of the mirrors. I owed them a great debt because I had taken their sister away, allowed them to think she died in a fire, and I just sat there watching them mourn. Of course, mourning wasn't something that usually affected me. I'm literally surrounded by the death. And I am not in the habit of feeling guilty, but I did. I felt guilty for what I had done, and the other Hades chided me for it mercilessly, and at every opportunity. Honestly, I was a bit of a jerk. Though the Odd Sisters and the Fates said the other Hades and I would be exactly the same, that wasn't quite true. The other me was more like I was before I came to the many kingdoms, fueled purely by his hate and bitterness, and honestly, I didn't see a problem with that. We have our reasons for hating our brother and our life in the underworld, and if he wanted to hold on to all that and use it for our fight against our brother, then more power to him. We had decided that while he took my place in the underworld, he'd keep me apprised of everything going on there, and I would lay the groundwork for our attack from the Forbidden Mountain. And even though the Fates had told me that I would release the Titans and defeat my brother, the insufferable know-it-alls didn't tell me how I was going to do it. But I was off to a diabolical start. There was just one tiny detail that everyone seemed to overlook, the matter of the Titans. There was no way I was going to be able to waltz up and say, "Oh hey, remember me? Hades, the guy who helped Zeus defeat you and put you in this stinking pit? Yeah, so I'm back. And I'm going to release you, but don't attack me. Just go after my brother, okay?" I needed to be sure they would be on my side, so I lied. Zeus had put 5 of the Titans we defeated in a vault at the bottom of the ocean: the Mountain King, the Lurker, the Lord of the Flame, the Mystic Voice, and Cyclops. They weren't the brightest bulbs in the Pantheon vault, but they were strong. The Mountain King was just as you would imagine. He was a giant 2-headed mountain. The Lurker was made of ice and had all these snazzy ice powers, and the Lord of Flame was a behemoth lava monster. The Mystic Voice was a massive tornado creature who could destroy almost anything with his powerful cyclones, and everyone knows what a Cyclops looks like, and if you don't, well, let me tell you, you don't want to get in a staring contest with one. I created a portal so I could speak with them while they were still safely in their undersea prison. I was the last person they wanted to talk to. But I pulled out all the stops, and I brought all the charm. I mean, all of it. I wove so many fairy tales you'd think I was the Brothers Grimm, and it was great. I made up a saga for the ages, a true Greek tragedy. I told them Zeus made me do it. I laid it on thick, and those dumb brutes lapped it up like Cerberus eating a soul trying to escape the underworld. It wasn't nearly as dangerous a mission as I had expected. It was easy, almost too easy. Excited that everything was coming together, I decided to check in with the other Hades. I wanted to see how things were going in the underworld. I had asked him to recruit some of the nastier creatures to join our side of the battle, and I wanted to see how that was coming along and let him know we could count on the Titans. The other Hades and I had decided it was safest to use the magic mirrors the Odd Sisters had given us. Their magic was on a different frequency than the magic in my realm, and there was no chance anyone on Olympus would be tapping in. I summoned him the way Lucinda had taught me. "Show me Hades in the underworld." The other Hades appeared, his head flaming red, and Pain and Panic were cowering in the background, as several souls glided into the underworld, causing the soul counter on the wall behind Hades to tick in succession. "Things aren't going so well, I take it," I said, shaking my head and wondering what Pain and Panic had done to incur his wrath. I felt a little guilty to be happy I wasn't there dealing with those bumbling fools. It was bad enough the Fates popped in and out of the many kingdoms at will. I didn't know what I would do if I had to deal with Pain and Panic as well. Aren't going so well? Aren't going so well? Well, that's an understatement for the ages. These imbeciles didn't kill Hercules, and he still has godlike strength. That's how it's going down here. He motioned to Pain and Panic, who were trying to inch their way out of my view. "Remind me to spite them the next time I'm there. Get in line. The planets will be aligned in a matter of weeks, and now we have to find a way to kill Hercules." The other me shot flames at the little devils, making them scatter out of the room. "What are you talking about? We have almost 18 years. There's plenty of time." It turned out that while I had only been in the many kingdoms for a handful of weeks at most, in my own realm, almost 18 years had gone by. It didn't make sense. I guess time flies when you're having ice cream parties and decorating for your new fortress. And don't forget your crushing guilt. I'm sure that passes the time. Don't act like I'm up here floating on clouds like a big old baby. I just tricked the Titans into blaming Zeus for everything, and they've agreed to fight on our side. Now both of us were exploding into red flames, and I was scaring my wraith ravens. They scattered out of the windows while the other Hades screamed at me from the magic mirror. Great, but none of it will matter if we don't find a way to kill Wonder Boy. Then send the Hydra. She'll devour him, I said. I must have gotten all the smarts when my strings were split. I didn't understand why else the other Hades was just sitting in the underworld blowing his top when he should have been sending every monster we knew after Hercules. Hercules already defeated her, but I've got our little nutmeg on the case, and I'm sure she'll find his weakness. She's your little nutmeg, not mine. I forgot. You only collect souls of witches. Well, when you're done with your little tea party, why don't you get down here where you belong and help me? The other Hades was now completely engulfed in flames, and I thought that I couldn't possibly look so ridiculous when I got angry. Fine, I'll be there as soon as I can. You plot with Meg, and I'll round up some of our friends when I get there. We'll throw everything we have at him. Medusa, a griffin, the Minotaur, all of them. I scrawled a note to Flans letting her know I was going to be gone for a while, and to keep an eye on the sleeping dragon. Then I wiped the mirror quickly and called the Odd Sisters, but they weren't there. Where are those dingbats? I realized they probably didn't have a mirror on them. Instead, I hastily created a vortex so I could let them know I was going back to my realm to deal with stuff and would be back as soon as I could. I saw the Odd Sisters in the small round vortex, but they were not looking at me. I wasn't sure they were aware I was there on the other side, even though I kept calling their names. I couldn't tell what was going on. It was like a scene from an old horror movie. I was half expecting Vincent Price to start narrating the gruesome scene, or Christopher Lee to pop out reciting one of his spooky monologues. The Odd Sisters were huddled in the dark basement with Gothel, surrounded by candles, and one of them moved to the side. I saw they were standing over Primrose's and Hazel's dead bodies, and between them was a young girl who looked like she was under a sleeping curse. She had impossibly long golden hair that glowed in the darkness, and it was wrapped around the dead witches' bodies. The Odd Sisters' hands were bleeding, and the blood was dripping all over the sleeping girl and the dead witches as they chanted. Hey, dingbats, turn around! My voice startled them, making them spin in my direction. So this is what you're up to when you're away? Blood magic? I told you it isn't safe. The Odd Sisters looked like children who had been caught stealing candy, but their expressions quickly turned impish. Their faces looked pale and frenzied from the magic they were doing. We're helping Gothel. Her sisters died, and we're trying to bring them back. You're the one who told us to make friends. This is what friends do, said Lucinda, smearing blood on her face as she pushed the hair out of her eyes. Who is that little girl? You know what? Never mind. I don't have time to watch the sequel to The Craft. I'm taking a short trip to the underworld to fulfill a cosmic prophecy. Please try not to get into any more trouble before I get back. I was livid. It's not that I'm against necromancy, but I've reanimated tons of dead people. It's pretty fun, actually. And it was none of my business if they wanted to put a princess under a sleeping curse and smear blood all over her. But there was something about the scene that just sent a chill through me. The same feeling I got when the Fates and Wraith Queens said the Odd Sisters would destroy the world when they found out who they really were. I had to wonder if I was right to send them on this path. I had no idea any of this would happen. I hadn't seen it in the book of fairy tales when I read it, but I didn't have time to think about it. I didn't have time for the Odd Sisters' antics. I'd have to talk with them when I got back. I just had to hope they didn't do any more damage in the meantime. I made what I thought was a quick trip back to the underworld to round up some of my old friends, the Medusa, the Griffin, and the Minotaur. They all agreed to try to destroy Hercules, and I promised them places of honor in the new ruling pantheon if they succeeded. The other me was busy recruiting more monsters of his own and working with Meg by way of threats to see if she could find Hercules' weakness. I didn't know much about Meg, only that she had sold her soul to the other me, and now she was one of his unwilling minions. It seemed like he and Meg had things covered, so I went back to the many kingdoms to check on the Odd Sisters. I was only away for a matter of days, but years had passed in the many kingdoms while I was gone. By the time I got back, the Odd Sisters had created a new Circe all on their own, without my help, and Maleficent had woken up and was squatting in my fortress, the Forbidden Mountain. I had foolishly thought that since so much time had passed in the underworld and Olympus while I had been in the many kingdoms, that meant almost no time at all would have passed in the many kingdoms when I was helping the other me. But it would seem that was not the case. It didn't make sense, and everything had gone terribly wrong. I saw it the moment I walked into the Odd Sisters' house. The Odd Sisters were in the sitting room on the floor, surrounded by piles of books, scraps of paper, candles, and jars of magical powders. They looked up, surprised to see me there. What are you doing here, demon? Lucinda said. Lucinda stood up, glaring at me. I could tell she wasn't the Lucinda I knew before I went away. There was something missing from inside her. Like there was a vacant space, and in that space, something else, something putrid, was taking hold, and in my mind I saw it growing over time, and I knew it wasn't right. It was the oddest sensation, looking at my witches, not feeling like they were my witches anymore. They weren't themselves, and it sent that same chill through my body. What happened to you? I was only gone for a few days. What have you done to yourselves? You left us alone for years, Hades. You didn't keep your promise. We had to create Circe on our own, said Lucinda. And we don't want you here when she gets back, said Ruby, so leave. In that moment, I knew what happened. They'd sacrificed themselves to make Circe. That was what was missing. They used the best parts of themselves to make her, and that pervasive evil, the legacy left by the Wraith Queens, was invading the empty spaces within them. We didn't sacrifice anything, said Lucinda, reading my mind. We gave her the best parts of us, and now we have our Circe again. And we're going to do the same for Maleficent. She wants a daughter of her own, and we're going to share this gift with her, said Martha. You can't do that. It'll kill her. Look what it's done to you. What do you mean, Hades? What's wrong with us? Asked Lucinda, her head tilted to one side, her eyes wide and vacant. I was heartbroken and completely taken aback by how altered they were, and it was my fault. You're not the same witches I once knew. You sacrificed too much of yourselves to create Circe. The spell will eat away at you as it did the witches in the Deadwoods, don't you see? And now you want to do the same to Maleficent? I won't let you. What do you care about us? You left us here alone to defend for ourselves. Why shouldn't we help Maleficent, give her a daughter to love, someone to care for, to live for, to protect? This will ruin all of you. Don't you see? This is what the fates said would happen. You must stop this now before it's too late. You have to take back the parts of yourself used to create Circe. Take them back? That would kill her, said the odd sisters, scratching at their faces and pulling their hair. They were going wild. I had never seen them like that. I rushed to them and tried to make them stop, but Lucinda took me off guard and sent me flying backward a few feet with her magic. I was surprised she was able to stop me, but that didn't matter. These were not my witches. They were not my delightful and sometimes annoying dingbats. They were something else. You would have us kill our own daughter? Said Ruby. She was crying and ripping the lace from her dress into shreds. Yes, you have to. I will help you find a better way, a safe way to create another Circe, I promise. One that will not destroy you over time. One that won't shatter your souls. This is not safe magic. You're the one who told us to find the spell in the Deadwoods, and that is what we did. Now you're telling us it's dangerous? I think you're just jealous. You want us for yourself. You never liked Circe. And in that moment, my face appeared in all the odd sisters' mirrors. It was the other me, calling from the underworld. Hercules defeated all of them. Every creature we sent after him, and our Meg can't seem to find his weakness. But I'm not sure she's telling the truth. I think they're falling in love. Lucinda laughed. It seems you've found his weakness, she said, and all the mirrors went blank. There's nothing here for you, Hades. You abandoned your fortress to Maleficent, and you turned your back on us, leaving us here to fend for ourselves. And now you insult our magic and tell us to kill our own daughter? You never cared for us. You were never our family. The house shook violently with her anger. That's not true, you dingbat. I'm trying to help you. I have to be honest here. I was pretty heartbroken. I couldn't believe I'd let this happen, and I decided if I had to, I would kill the new Circe myself and bring back the old one. I couldn't stand seeing my witches this way, and I knew I was to blame. Go back to the underworld and rot. Your throne is empty and waiting for you. I had never seen a look like that on Lucinda's face. Not when talking to me, anyway. I'd lost her. I'd lost the odd sisters, and it hurt me more than losing my own brother. What are you talking about? You did what you do best. You left the other Hades to fight the battle alone, and he died in the river of death. You're insane. I literally just talked to him. Do you honestly think, after locking up Cronus, the god of time, so many years ago, and then agreeing to release lesser titans, that time would ever be on your side? I never thought I would hate the sound of Lucinda's laughter, but it felt like jagged shards of glass being plunged into my heart. I don't believe you, witch. And see for yourself. It's right there in the book of fairy tales. She waved her hand and the book flew across the room and landed with a thump right next to me, and I opened a page that had my name on it. It was right there. My story. I didn't see this story when I read the book of fairy tales. It was still being written, said Lucinda, smiling at them in a way that made me think she wasn't sharing the entire story. She wasn't the witch I loved anymore, and she hated me because she thought I had abandoned her. Everything was spinning out of control. It was madness and chaos and falling into ruin, just as it was fated. I've read tons of stories in this damnable book that haven't happened yet, I said. I didn't understand what was going on, and Lucinda didn't seem willing to share the secrets of her precious book. I lost my temper. Look, witches, I loved you once, and God help me, I may still, but you're walking a dangerously fine line. I'm going to give you a chance to tell me what's going on, but you know as well as I do that I can take you back to the underworld in an instant, and there won't be a thing you can do about it. So start talking. We can't read the stories about ourselves until all the events completely unfold, most of the time. Sometimes we can see them as they were being written, sometimes we can't, which seems to be the case with your tale. Look, there is still more to the story, something even we can't see. It seems our fates will be forever entangled, and only time will reveal how. This didn't seem possible. This is insanity, I said, but I sat there and read the rest of my story in the book of fairy tales, at least everything that had been written, and I was shocked. The others, Hades, had made a deal with Hercules to give up his powers for 24 hours in exchange for Meg's soul. Good thinking, but it obviously didn't work. Lucinda was right. Meg was Hercules' weakness, and like all love-struck fools, Hercules agreed, only to find that he had been working with the other me all along. Only to find that she had been working with the other me all along. After the deal was struck, the other Hades took off in his winged chariot, and let me say that chariot was awesome. It had black leathery wings on each side and a wicked face, and it was pulled by a giant black dragon with red eyes. The planets aligned just as the fates had decreed, and a dark beam of light shot down from the cosmos onto the very place where the other Hades would find the Titans. Everything was going according to plan, except I wasn't there. I was supposed to be there. This was my battle, my master plan, everything I had worked for, and all I could do was read about it in the waters as the waters of the sea parted and the vault was revealed. The other Hades called down to the Titans. He was commanding and magnificent to behold. Brothers, Titans, look at you in this squalid prison. Who put you down there? He yelled. Zeus, the Titans called out. And now that I set you free, what is the first thing you're going to do? His voice was deep, villainous, and imbued with his dark intentions. Destroy him, the Titans rumbled. One by one, the colossal Titans marched toward Olympus, all except Cyclops. The other Hades sent him off to kill Hercules. A brilliant plan. A plan that should have worked. Hercules was human now, vulnerable. Everything was in our favor. There was no way Hercules could win a fight against a Titan without his godlike strength. Except he did, all because of a technicality. A technicality. Something about the deal he made with the other Hades. Some stupid thing about no harm coming to Meg. And when she got hurt, well, the deal was off, and Hercules got his powers back. Meanwhile, the other me was sitting on the throne of Olympus, sipping honey wine out of a glass with an umbrella in it like a fool, while the Lurker and the Lord of Flame encased Zeus in hardened lava. And who shows up but Hercules, just as the fates said he might. And the rest is history, or myth, or however you choose to look at it. For me, it was a defeat. The looks on the odd sisters' faces as I read the book of fairy tales told me it was all true. I saw everything in my mind's eye as I read the book of fairy tales, almost as if I were watching the events in one of the odd sisters' magic mirrors. I wish I had been. Maybe I could have helped. I stopped it, changed the course of destiny. But there was nothing I could do when I saw Hercules ride into the underworld on my dog and knock the other me into the river of death, sealing my fate. I failed. I failed the other Hades. I failed myself, and I failed the odd sisters. It seemed that was my fate, just as it was my fate to take the throne in the underworld again. But that was not the end of my story. As the odd sisters said, my story was still being written.